You're listening to Fat White Women and the Black Men That Love Them, Marcus and Debra, Business and Pleasure. Written by Gareth Mayers, narrated by Daniel et al., 11 Labs AI. Chapter 1. Lunch. The conveyor belt slowed to a halt, and the 3,000 workers at Forest Filtered Water's bottling plant filed off the floor and into the hallways. The break room usually filled up after the first 5 minutes, so those who either didn't make it in time for a spot or wanted to avoid the crowd went outside for lunch. Marcus took his lunch break on a bench in the courtyard under a long pavilion. Not long after, a co-worker sat next to him and smiled. He returned the gesture, trying to recall her name. He remembered her from the orientation, and they had not too long started working together on the same crew. The women would monitor the filling process, then slap caps on the bottles, while the men stacked them on pallets and wrapped them in wrapping plastic. It was a simple job for simple pay. As Marcus opened his lunch container, his co-worker's name popped into his head. Debra.
That smells good. What's that?
She said, pulling him out of his thoughts. He grinned.
Oh, you like the way it smells? It's corn soup with dumplings, a West Indian dish. Try some.
I don't know. Dumplings are flour.
She blushed and glanced down at herself.
And as you can see, I should really be trying to lose some weight.
What you talking about, girl? You look fine.
Are you kidding? I'm almost 300 pounds. I need to lose at least 50.
Marcus shook his head.
But the weight going to all the right places. You just got to maintain where you're at right now.
Oh, stop it. You're the worst.
She giggled, her face getting redder with embarrassment.
Come on, just take one bite. One bite can't hurt, right?
Fine, fine.
She groaned.
But just a taste.
She put the spoon to her mouth, and her face lit up with a gasp. With a hand on her cheek, she turned to him.
Oh my God, that tastes amazing. Did you make that yourself?
Ah, that's what I like to hear. Yeah, I did make it actually. My ma taught me. But listen, if you think that's good, wait till you taste my dessert, 'cause that's my real specialty.
He presented her with another smaller bowl and opened it, saying,
Guava cheesecake.
Her eyes went wide.
Oh no, not cheesecake. That's my weakness. I really shouldn't though. I mean, no, I can't. I won't. Wait, is that jelly on top?
Yup, it has a layer of guava jelly on top and in the middle.
Seriously?
She groaned.
God, just one bite, Kay. Stop me if I want more. Ugh, why did I meet you? You're the devil.
He laughed, holding out the bowl. As she put the confectionery into her mouth, it seemed to melt away in seconds. It had a rich, sweet flavor that sent her into an almost orgasmic state.
No lie. That is literally the best cheesecake I have ever tasted.
She said,
You should open your own restaurant.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
He chuckled.
But a restaurant is a little far-fetched.
That was the beginning of Marcus's and Debra's friendship and what would become a ritual for them over the years they worked together. Marcus would make tasty dishes, and she would give him a much-needed ego boost with her compliments. At home, Marcus's life was a lot different. The polar opposite of his work relationship. He lived with his long-term girlfriend, Natalie, a foxy black mama with all the right curves. When she was 18, he had helped pay for her college education. Even after she had graduated and was finding it difficult to find work that suited her level of education, Marcus negotiated with his boss to get her hired as a clerical assistant. But she quickly, almost miraculously, rose through the ranks and began earning several times more than him. It had never been a problem for him, but she seemed to think it should be. She would want to go to expensive places that he couldn't afford and complained when she was forced to foot the bill. Arguments erupted, and it wasn't uncommon for her to focus on his shortcomings as a real man, his lack of ambition, and his easygoing attitude. Natalie would insist that he would get nowhere in life, and when he countered with any remark that seemed to shut her up for a time, she would simply jump to a different failing of his, and as a last resort, would attack his sexual performance. His Caribbean culture, one where men were generally laid back and just wanted peace, meant he would try to stay quiet throughout most of her tirades, not adding any wood to the fire. To be successful at that method, he would ignore her, and when it got too bad, he would go for a walk. He did anything to extend his time away from her, like leaving earlier for work and staying back late, but he would not leave her. That was uncommon in his culture. Even his own father cheated on his mother time and time again, but they never split. They had bitter fights, both physical and verbal, but they stuck it out. So despite not being married to Natalie, he felt obligated to stay even when things went from bad to worse. Faced with increasing unhappiness at home and at work, eventually made him unsatisfied with even the simplicities of life. TV, sex, sleep, drinking, and eating were no longer enough and seemed tedious. The 9-to-5 routine he had done all his life had begun to take its toll on his mind. He had always believed that the most important thing about a job was that it was honest work, not if it made you rich. But now, with Natalie's influence and watching her getting a lot of job satisfaction, often working overtime, and being able to afford the nicer things that he could never buy for her, he began to feel inadequate. It put him on the lookout for something else, but with only a high school education, his hopes looked doubtful. Chapter 2. Plan. Marcus kicked his feet up on the coffee table with a sigh. Sunday always seemed to take forever to roll around, but once it did, he'd routinely take in his favorite TV show, Ultimate Cake-Off, a reality series where pastry chefs designed cakes with various themes to compete for a prize. While watching Margot San Pedro, his favorite to win, struggle to make a giant fondant turkey, a light bulb in his head went off. Glancing down at his hands, he thought about all the delicious meals he made nearly every day. He was the chief cook in the relationship, and it didn't really bother him. In fact, you could say he loved it. If he wasn't in the kitchen, he was watching shows about chefs and cooking or sharing his meals with others. Memories of his late mother fell into place like puzzle pieces. The two of them spending time in the kitchen, baking cookies and other pastries, his mother patiently passing down her recipes to him while he helped her cook the family lunch, and going grocery shopping with his mother on the weekends. He realized that cooking was something he was naturally good at, a talent nurtured by his mother. Some of the first things Debra had told him when they first met rang out in his ears again as if he were reliving the moment. She had been repeating the sentiment for years, but he had never taken her seriously.
Open a restaurant. Become a chef. Sell your cooking.
Debra's goading had stayed with him subconsciously, and now, sitting on his couch watching pastry chefs do their thing, he finally saw it as a viable option. The idea was dynamite, but before he rushed to tell Natalie, he thought it would be smarter to run it by Debra first, despite already guessing what she was going to say. But he needed to be sure. Natalie had the practice of being harshly critical, and he couldn't count how many times she'd undermined him or made him look foolish in public after getting her degree. That alone made him consider any idea he had several times before he told her. Marcus got to work early, sat in the break room, and waited anxiously for Debra to arrive. She was his longest-running workmate and most trusted friend, so he knew better than anyone else what time she got into work. Usually she was the first to arrive, but he had gone the extra mile to show up before she did. As soon as he caught sight of her waist-length black hair and saucy curves sashaying through the door, he sprang up from his seat. She gave him a terrified look as he stalked over and pulled her aside. He was hyper with eagerness, knowing he could get an honest and respectful answer from her.
Deb.
He sounded like a giddy child.
I had an idea yesterday, and I think it's a good one. I mean, this could change my life completely. Well, if it all goes like planned. There are a lot of obstacles, though.
Debra jumped in at that point.
Well, go on, spill it. You already got me all excited, you know.
Okay. Well, I want to open my own bakery that specializes in cakes. Before you say anything, I know it sounds crazy, but I realize I always had a love for cooking, and I think this might be the job for me.
What are you talking about? I don't think it sounds crazy at all. I've literally been telling you to do this years now. Anyway, I'm just glad you're finally ready to go ahead with the idea. Believe me, you're a good cook.
She paused.
Maybe if you weren't so good, I wouldn't be in such bad shape now, huh?
They both had a chuckle before she cut in with the dreaded question.
Have you told your wife yet?
Marcus cringed.
No, I didn't, and how many times am I going to say she's not my wife before you remember?
Oh, right. Sorry. Well, you should still tell her. What's the holdup?
You know how she is. I felt it would be better to run it past you first and see how you react. Then I would decide whether to tell her.
Okay,
She hummed, giving a thoughtful tap on her chin.
that's smart. Before you tell her, you should do more research on the subject, like, what skills you might need to learn, who's the competition, and all that good stuff. That way, when you talk to her, you can be more convincing.
You serious? How I supposed to get all that information?
Just search the internet, Marky.
She teased.
Girl, you know I ain't too computer savvy.
That's fine. I'll help you out. I'll do the research and get back to you. Sound good?
He nodded, and she turned away, laughing.
But I have to say, it's crazy that you don't know how to use the internet in this day and age. You're like a grandpa. One day, we really need to sit you down and get on top of that.
I guess I should, eh?
He chuckled, going over to the coffee machine to brew his second cup of the morning.
I mean, I never saw the need. I don't like texting, period. So Facebook and all them others just seem like a waste of time. Oh, but Natalie loves it, though. She'd be up all hours of the night just chatting away with her friends and family. I don't get that, really. I prefer a face-to-face conversation.
He knew Debra would get what he meant. Even though she teased him about it, she understood that he wasn't just some stubborn guy or grumpy hermit. He just preferred to live his life differently, more personally. As he made his coffee at his usual unhurried pace and watched as she took out her breakfast, he smiled to himself. Somehow, it felt as if they were embarking on a wild adventure. Or maybe using the internet was making it seem a lot grander than it actually was. Chapter 3. Ladder. That night, Debra got onto the net and started researching the cake baking industry. After only a few minutes, she had fallen in love with the idea and saw even greater possibilities to be had. Doing things like this came naturally to her. She was diligent even at her day-to-day job, despite being unable to move up the corporate ladder because of her weight. There was no reason to be skeptical about that fact. Slim babes would waltz into the factory with no prior experience and no work ethic, but in no time at all, they would be the ones calling the shots. Usually, she was bubbly and didn't allow discrimination to dampen her mood, but there were difficult days and nights where crying seemed like the only option. After all, she'd been single for almost a decade and still had never experienced intimacy with a man past a peck on the lips at the end of high school. Her singleness wasn't only due to being overweight, of course, but more so because of her traditional beliefs. She wanted her first time to be with someone who had committed themselves to her fully and forever, and vice versa, not a live-in boyfriend, or as she called it, a waste of time. Sex for fun didn't seem fun to her, not to mention her mother had run out on her father for a lover who dropped her like a hot potato once he got bored with her. Even though her mother had tried to reconcile with her father, he decided to use her to send Debra a message. It was a clear lesson on being gullible and getting used by men, and it stuck. While many of Debra's high school friends were jumping in and out of fickle relationships, she was busy not getting her heart broken and her dignity smeared for a bit of fun. Stretching, she got off the bed, hoisted the PC over to the desk on the other side of the room, and connected the printer. Soon, the wasp-like hum of the machine filled the quiet room as she printed off several pages of research to show Marcus in the morning. Maybe she was just a little too diligent. Marcus had brought a home-cooked meal, enough for both of them, and the two sat down under the pavilion to chat and eat, as was their custom. He gave her a container filled to the brim with a green broth and studded in the middle with a hulking open-shelled crab. A look of shock passed over her features before a huge grin spread across her face.
No way. Is this crab?
Marcus nodded.
It's crab and callaloo. Didn't you ask to try that yesterday?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
She laughed, slapping her forehead.
Thanks. You really know how to treat a woman.
I don't know about that. I know how to treat you because you make it easy, but Natalie's way pickier.
After they ate, Debra pulled out a folder from her bag.
By the way, I did the research, and I thought about how you should approach your wife to talk about it. I think it should work.
Again, she's not my wife, but whatever. What did you learn?
Well, you could get a loan to start off, but let's face it, the bank's not giving you that kind of money without a huge deposit. So if you can get your wife to give you some of the money, you should be able to open a small store.
How much money as collateral?
About $135,000.
What? I could never afford that. I can't even afford a car yet.
Really? So what were you doing with all your money this whole time?
Girl, I really don't know.
She shook her head in amazement.
Wow, just wow. All right, don't panic, okay? I already thought of the cheapest method. Just get a food truck and start small, selling right here on work.
There was a short pause between them as Marcus churned the idea in his mind. Finally, he looked at her with growing concern.
I'm not sure. Let me ask you a question, right? If you had a man— Oh, sorry, what I mean.
It's fine, Marky. Continue.
Right. Well, if you were in Natalie's position, would you go for this plan?
Heck yeah. It's a great idea, and we would get returns on the money we lost in less than a year.
That's if we're successful.
He frowned.
I think you mean when we're successful. Come on, Marky, you gotta be more positive. Here's why it's going to work. 1, because it's a good idea, and 2, because you have the talent to make it a success. Have more confidence in yourself. You're the real deal. Take it from me. Your cooking is the bomb. Besides, you have a friend who's not going to let you fail.
Oh ho, you're that on board with it.
Are you kidding? It's more my idea than yours. Plus, so far, I'm already doing all the work.
He burst out laughing.
Okay, sure. And with a curvy babe like you by my side, no way I can lose.
Oh, shut up. You like to— what's the word?
Mama guy.
Yeah, that.
He grinned.
You learning fast, girl. But sometimes I just want to say something nice.
Whatever.
She giggled.
Don't forget to tell your wife the plan when you get home, 'kay? Oh, and don't forget me when you get big.
Girl, we're going to the top together, don't worry. Where I go, you go. I'll need somebody to help me run the thing right. That's how friends move.
She smiled and looked at her feet.
Yeah, friends.
She mumbled. Chapter 4. Talk. Marcus slumped into the seat on the bus home. The idea of approaching Natalie left him with a turbulent stomach and heavy shoulders. It was all too easy to trigger her and lose his valuable peace. She wouldn't be home when he got there, so in the meanwhile, he cooked up a plan to butter her up before dropping the news. The bus gave a puff of air as it squealed to a halt at his stop. Stepping out into the biting evening wind, he glanced up at the indigo sky and the few stars that dotted it. It looked so peaceful up there. Sometimes he wished the sky would suck him up and take him away from all the messy drama of day-to-day life. Shaking his head, he continued down the street to his house. Whipping up a fancy meal with a romantic candlelight setting, he hoped to put Natalie in a more permissive mood. Then, he would break the news without too much of a struggle. She usually stayed out until 7 and got home a half hour later, but some days she worked overtime. He waited patiently until, at precisely 10 o'clock, the front door clicked, and Natalie strode in. Before she was properly through the door, she began to complain in a loud, aggressive manner.
The hell is going on here? Marcus? Marcus! Where the hell is that lazy nigga? Why are the lights so goddamn dim? You trying to hurt somebody? I can barely see the floor.
Marcus stepped out of the dining room. She was hanging her coat in the front hall, not looking his way.
I hope you aren't trying to get some tonight, 'cause the boss worked me real hard today. Had me going for hours, so the last thing I need is you trying to jump on top of me. If that's what you had in mind, forget it. I'm tired. You're going to have to help yourself tonight.
Marcus felt a part of him bubble up, a part that wanted to lash out. But he knew he needed to keep his cool. Gritting his teeth, he squeezed out a laugh to try to diffuse the situation before it escalated.
No, baby. Can't I just prepare a nice dinner for my girl? You've been working late ever since you got that promotion, so I thought you would like this, you know? Just relax and have a seat, babe.
Natalie watched him and raised an eyebrow.
Okay, that's nice, but I'm serious. You ain't getting none tonight, so if you think a little fish and foie gras is going to get this kitty cat out, you got another thing coming.
Marcus chuckled.
It's foie gras, and I didn't cook that. Anyway, come sit down. It's your favorite pancetta.
Before he could finish, she cut him off.
Don't baby me, Marcus. I don't care what you cook. You're up to something. Just tell me what it is.
He sighed. Looking back at the table and the waning candles, he gathered his courage and blurted it out.
Well, the truth is, I have an idea I want to run by you, but it can wait.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it.
She threw up her arms and rolled her eyes.
Come on, let's hear it. Let's hear your ridiculous idea so I can say no and go to bed.
All right. You know what? This can wait till the next time,
he said, walking away.
No, hold on. Let's hear this shit now. How do you want to spend my money?
What?
He swung around.
When have I ever asked you for any money?
The veins in his neck pulsed as the annoyance turned to rage. He knew he needed to leave it alone, but she had taken a piss on his ego.
That doesn't matter. I knew it would get to this point one day. You're so jealous of what I have. You could never handle the fact that I was an independent black woman, so you try to bring me down to your level. That's what you want, isn't it? You never do anything like this unless you want something from me, and if it's not sex, then what else could it be? You think you're so smart, huh?
Woman, what the hell are you talking about?
He said, watching her through narrowed eyes.
Is this about how I don't take you out enough? You know I can't afford to carry you to no five-star restaurant every night, right? Maybe I would actually have some money saved up if you wasn't so high maintenance.
Whatever, Marcus. I don't even care. I don't need this BS tonight. I just got home. I ate already, so you can throw that out. Okay? Get to it.
Natalie turned and stalked off to the bedroom, leaving Marcus standing alone in the flickering candlelight. After a few minutes of staring angrily at the door, he went to scrape the food into the bin. The rest of the night passed without any direct communication between them, but Natalie kept talking loudly to herself, griping about Marcus's shortcomings. As usual, he tried not to instigate further tension and stayed out of her way, choosing to sleep on the couch rather than endure her constant harping. He stared up at the ceiling fan, following its repetitive motion with his eyes, all the while envisioning his dream crumbling like wet paper before him. Chapter 5. Redo.
So, how did it go? Did she bite?
Debra leaned against the wall outside the break room, waving to Marcus as he came in the next morning. He looked defeated.
You could say that. She bit a piece of my ass off, then cut off my balls while she was at it.
He laughed bitterly.
What? Really? You explained the whole thing to her?
No.
He took a deep breath before motioning for her to follow him inside the break room.
I didn't get a chance to say anything. She came home, and her mouth just took off.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, maybe she had a bad day.
Yeah, I'm sure that was it.
Debra sighed. Their workmates had begun to trickle in, so she lowered her voice.
You have to try again when the opportunity presents itself.
I don't know. Maybe it's actually a bad idea.
Whoa, mister. Don't start thinking like that. It's only the first of many challenges to come, so you need to think positive and keep your goal in mind. Ditch that defeatist attitude. If you start thinking cynically before you even get going, then you're just sabotaging yourself.
All right, Miss Life Coach, you're right as usual.
He chuckled.
I'll just be direct with Natalie. She'll either say yes or no.
That's better. You're a man, after all. You're not going to let some woman push you around like that, are you?
Oh, whatever, Deb. You push me around all the time.
Yeah, but that's because you're my bitch.
She teased, laughing and poking him. They joked around and planned out how he should approach Natalie until it was time to get to work. Since Saturday was a half day of work, Marcus went home around 1, still thinking about the minefield he was about to stumble into. Natalie was home on the weekends, so he met her already on the computer when he got there. He cut to the chase. Coming up behind her, he said,
Hey, baby.
She jumped, slammed down her laptop and whirled around.
Jeez, you scared me, Marcus. Why are you sneaking around?
She huffed.
Sorry, I wanted to talk about last night.
She looked back at her laptop, then looked at him again and nodded.
Actually, me too. Listen, I've been really stressed with a deadline I had to meet for work, and it just had me so on edge. I guess it caused me to react badly. But I'm ready to listen now, so tell me what your idea is.
Marcus lit up. The sudden change in her attitude was a pleasant surprise. At the back of his mind, though, he thought to himself that he had also had many bad days and stressful periods, but he never came home and made an ass of himself because of it. But then again, she was a woman, and probably allowed her emotions to get in the way sometimes. He brushed it off quickly and gave his most concise explanation.
Well, I want to open a bakery that specializes in cakes.
Natalie sputtered. Then she burst out in scornful laughter.
Are you serious? A bakery? You're joking, right?
No.
Marcus could feel his excitement deflate. She continued to laugh, almost doubling over.
No, please, please stop. You're killing me.
At this point, his face was hurting from clenching his jaw. All he could feel was his own frustration.
Look at this.
He went into his drawer and took out the research Debra had printed off for him. He handed the papers to Natalie while he told her the rest of the plan, just as Debra had coached him to do. Natalie sobered up once he gave her the research, realizing that he was dead serious. His idea wasn't some joke, but a dangerous delusion. Once he had finished his speech, she shook her head.
Are you mad? This is crazy. No, wait, Marcus. Are you actually going insane? Do you hear yourself? I mean, do you really hear yourself right now? You're in your damn 30s, and you're still paying down on this house. You can't afford to go chasing dreams. Those days are over. You missed them. I certainly won't be enabling you. I already pay my fair share around here. The cable bills, the net, I pay all that. The washing machine and the stove, I bought those. If you think you're going to ride my back for free, well, I got news for you.
Marcus almost couldn't keep his cool. He had taken his time and effort to explain this plan carefully to her, and she was treating him like a teenaged boy who had dropped out of college and was bumming around the house.
So I'm riding your back. When I paid for your schooling and then got you your job, what was that, huh?
Oh, so that's what this is really about, huh? It's just about money for you. Everything you do, you just add up the cost in your mind.
She huffed.
What about the times I've had to foot the bills for our vacation? I've more than paid you back for everything you did, not to mention having to lay there while you try to sex me.
Marcus's mouth was hanging open.
Are you serious? I never even wanted to go on those vacations. You always forced me. Actually, you know what?
He stood up abruptly.
Forget it.
But Natalie didn't forget it. They argued on and off for the rest of the weekend, and he began to regret the moment the idea popped into his head. Chapter 6. Partnership. Marcus came into work that week, drained from all the arguing over the weekend. He went straight to Debra to report what had happened and found her in the storeroom doing a stock check. At first she was speechless, but finally she said,
Maybe she's just scared of trying something new. When people are afraid, they act irrationally.
Maybe she's just a bitch, Debra.
Marcus leaned, slumped against the wall, with his hands shoved into his pockets. He wasn't looking at her, just staring at the concrete floor.
Oh my! You can't say that about your wife. Sorry, I mean, girlfriend. Whatever she does, you shouldn't allow it to make you compromise your standards.
What standards? I ain't have no standards. If a woman behaving like a bitch, I treat her like a bitch.
Whatever, Marky. I've seen the way you deal with women and people in general. You're very tender and sweet, and that's a good thing. You shouldn't have to become a beast or someone ugly just to deal with a woman. So don't let her take away your good side, Kay.
I'll try.
He shrugged and sighed.
But good God, she is sickening like a damn bloodsucker.
Debra burst out laughing.
Stop it! But what does that mean for your plan?
What do you mean? It's over. She sunk my ship. I didn't even get to mention the amount of money I wanted.
No, it's not. You like to say there's more than one way to skin a cat, and it's true. You can't quit that fast. But I don't want to get between you two or make that decision for you.
But you're going to anyway, so go ahead.
Yeah.
She giggled.
I couldn't help it. I was up last night doing more research just in case she said no, which I have to admit, I had a feeling she would.
So why didn't you say so? I wouldn't have made a fool of myself if you said you thought the idea wouldn't fly with her.
If I told you I thought she'd say no, it might have changed the way you approach the situation. If you think something is hopeless, you tend to not give it your all, you know. I couldn't tell you, or you would have just failed from the get-go.
I guess.
You guess?
Debra laughed in surprise.
I can name 3 examples off the top of my head. When you were going to ask for a raise, when you were going to ask for a promotion, and when you were going to ask Leanna out on a date. She really liked you, by the way. I can't believe you procrastinated asking her just because she's Asian. You really suck sometimes. I've seen you lose so many chances with great girls just because you were too chicken to do something. And then you just settled for that. Oh, I'm sorry, I went too far excuse.
Marcus sighed again, but now he was standing up straight.
Yeah, I get it. You're right about me as usual. I do pretty much defeat myself in my head.
As they left the storage room together, he asked,
So what's your plan?
Debra laid out a couple of pictures on the table in the lunchroom and grinned excitedly. Marcus scrunched up his face as he tried to figure out why she was showing him photos of a truck.
So I did some looking around and found a used food truck for just $15,000, and it's in excellent condition.
She said, pointing to the images. Marcus leaned in and squinted. She was right. The exterior was without a scratch, and the interior looked almost brand new. He let out a sharp whistle.
It's nice, but I can't afford that right now. I have to save up a little.
No, we have to move in now. The guy is leaving the country, and he needs quick cash. I know you're terrible with saving since you have such a high-roller wife to take care of, so lucky for you, I got together the money.
What? No, Debra, I can't take money from you. Are you crazy?
Yes, you can, and you will. This is what white girls do. Have you not seen Catfish?
Girl, this ain't a joke. I don't know if I could ever pay you back, especially if I fail. Our friendship would get mashed up, and I don't want to risk it.
But you were willing to borrow from Natalie, and that could have gone south. Besides, who said I was giving it away? It's an investment. I want equity in your business. You'd still be the boss, but I would be your partner and second in command.
Marcus stalled. He looked over the pictures again and thought about everything he had gone through up until this point. Scratching the back of his neck, he turned to Debra with a lopsided smile.
I don't know how you do it, girl. Really. Okay, let's do it your way. Glad to have you on my team, Miss Bell.
You made the right choice, my friend.
She grinned.
But I wish I could do something for you now.
For a moment, Debra seemed to contemplate hard.
There is. Give me some of that bean casserole you brought for lunch today, and don't forget me when you blow up.
He laughed.
Girl, we partners now. How could I forget you?
Chapter 7. Cornered. This time around, Marcus didn't have to contemplate how to tell his girlfriend for too long. Once he got inside, he found her busy on the computer, deep into a report. When she was engrossed in her work like that, he could tell her just about anything without much backlash. Smiling to himself, he sat on the couch beside her and casually said,
"I'm home, baby. Remember how we discussed the bakery thing?"
Huh.
Came the disinterested grunt. His smile grew wider. Perfect.
"Yeah. Well, I decided to do it anyway. I'm buying a food truck first and getting all the necessary permits to start up the business. It means I'll have to quit my job once I get things together, though."
Oh, okay. That's nice.
She didn't even turn to look at him. He nodded definitively and got up.
"All right, night then,"
he said. He went upstairs, showered, whistling an 80s tune the whole time, and put on his most comfortable pair of boxers. He jumped into bed, thinking about how good it would be if Natalie did even more work. But then the door to the room burst open and he heard,
What the hell did you just tell me, nigga?
Marcus quickly pretended to sleep.
"Oh, Lord, here it comes,"
he thought, squeezing his lids tighter.
Marcus, don't you dare try to act like you asleep. You know damn well I don't want you doing this. I'm just so tired of all your bullshit, Marcus. Marcus, look at me when I'm talking to you. Marcus!
She ripped the covers off of him.
Marcus? Why, you son of... Are you sleeping? Huh? You sleeping?
The next thing he knew, his head was being doused in cold water. Sputtering, he shot upright, his eyes wide with shock. Natalie held a cup in her hand and was smirking like she'd just won a prize.
"What the jail, Natalie? You gone mad?"
he yelled.
I'm not the crazy one here, and trust me, you ain't seen crazy yet. I told you already. I'm not spending any money on that nonsense plan of yours.
Climbing out of bed and wiping his face, he said,
"I know. I'm not spending your damn money. I'm spending my money."
She scoffed.
Oh, ho? Your money? Your money, Marcus? Is that how you see things? It's our money, Marcus. But you don't want to hear that because you're a selfish son of a bitch. You didn't think about how this would affect me at all. I had planned to go on vacation to Maui this year, you know.
He stared at her, speechless for a bit. Finally, in a voice that was both low and strained,
"What? Maui? You never even visited my home island yet. But you want to go Maui?"
No one cares about your backwards third world island, Marcus.
his jaw clenched a little tighter. Natalie carried on, ignoring the insult she'd thrown.
Marcus, I forbid it. I've been working really hard, so I deserve a good vacation, and we need all our money to do it. You can't go off spending our money on shitty, lame brain ideas. Next thing you know, you're going to want to be a rapper. What? You going to cut an album or drop a mixtape on us, nigga? You don't know shit about business. You don't have a degree. You barely even finished high school. What do you know about shit, huh? What makes you think you can do anything? The nerve you have to think you can just start up a business. It's that fat-ass white girl, isn't it? She's filling your mind with all this bullshit, isn't she? Come on, Marcus. She's a loser. Don't you see how long she's been working there and Mr. Graham hasn't promoted her once?
Just shut up,
Marcus said. Natalie's eyes went wide.
Don't talk about her like you know her.
He continued,
I don't know how you ever get the impression that you could tell me how to spend my money or live my life. You ain't my wife, remember? I asked you several times to be that person. I asked you to have my kids, but you said your career would suffer. Remember? Well, we don't have no kids. It's just us, and that means I could blow my money however I want.
Natalie was still stunned by the reply. For just a little while, she couldn't find her voice. Once she did, though, her real assault started.
Oh, I see. You want to be a big nigga, huh? You want to be a man? Well, let's see how long you last without any pussy. Let's see how long it takes this time for you to come begging on your hands and knees for me to give you some. You know you ain't shit without me.
Marcus clenched and unclenched his fists, trying desperately to hold back the rage. She wanted him to act like a man? Well, he felt like he could beat her like a man. Taking a breath, He instead got dressed silently and left. Natalie ran out behind him, hurling insults, telling him he was trash in bed, he had a small dick, and couldn't last more than 1 minute. Alerting all the neighbors to the controversy seemed to be her intention. The thought of going to Debra's house crossed his mind, but doing that would only fuel their next argument and make things worse. Shoving his hands deep into his pockets, he strode down the sidewalk as if he had a destination in mind. The wind cut through his coat, but he ignored it. Eventually, he looked up and found himself in the city center with no one around. The wind blew cold again, and he shivered. There was a subway system close by, so he headed in that direction. Once inside, he found a spot on the floor and settled down to sleep. There was a shuffling from the other side, and he locked eyes with another man, albeit a lot more disheveled and dirty than Marcus had ever been in his life. The man, elderly with a white horseshoe mustache and scraggly beard, eyed Marcus for a bit, then grinned a knowing and sympathetic grin, tipping his hat before going back to sleep. With that, Marcus fell asleep too. He wasn't worried about being mugged by the guy. He was probably just a homeless veteran. That night was one of the worst he had ever weathered, but despite the sore spots and aches all over his body, he felt more at peace there on the cold, hard concrete than on his orthopedic bed at home. Chapter 8. History. In the morning, he went straight to work from the subway station and met Debra on the way in.
Wow, you're here early. I tried calling you last night, but your wife picked up, and she sounded pissed. I didn't talk to her long because she wasn't making any sense. She called me a bitch, so I hung up.
Deb,
He said, placing his hands on her shoulders.
I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Last night she went crazy. It was the worst.
He explained all the drama that had taken place the night before, and she listened quietly. When he was done, Debra was still silent for a while before she shook her head with a sigh.
Wow, you didn't have to sleep on the streets, though. You could have come stay at my house if you wanted.
I know, but that would be a whole other story.
He groaned.
I just wanted to be alone for a while, to have a moment of peace. Sometimes I think all the things my father said about black women is true. I mean, this girl is so difficult to live with. He warned me about this, but I went and did it anyway.
What do you mean? Didn't your dad marry a black woman?
Yeah, but she was Caribbean black. He was talking about these African-American women. He dated a few back in the day before he met my mother. Cheated on her with a few too. One of them got him thrown in jail for child support. And when I visited him in prison, he told me it's better to be in prison than have to deal with these type of women. I guess it all worked out though, because that was the last time he cheated on Ma. Anyway, yeah, he was just warning me to never get involved with these African-American chicks.
So why didn't you take his advice?
They had come into the break room and begun their usual morning rituals of coffee and breakfast. Marcus shrugged as he mixed his cup.
Because it's bullshit. I had plenty real nice black girlfriends in the past, relationships I messed up doing dumb crap. Plus, he was a cheater. What'd he know about treating women, right? I mean, it's probably men like him that make women go nuts in the first place. And honestly, I was a little bit happy when he got his.
Marcus chuckled, shaking his head as the memory came back to him.
You know, while he was out at night, I was at home with my crying mother. She was the one doing all the sacrificing to raise us up good, and she loved him no matter what.
Wow, she was strong. She sounds amazing, actually.
She was. You would have liked her, and she would have loved you.
Really? I thought most black women hate to see their sons with a white woman.
Oh, please, not my ma. She said it didn't matter. But actually, you're kind of right, because Natalie did say if we ever had kids, she would grow them up black, whatever that means. She's always telling me how my Caribbean culture's too laid back, and we don't remember where we come from. God, my ma would have hated Natalie. She didn't like Afrocentric types.
He paused.
Well, actually, they would have both hated each other because Natalie would have thought my ma was a weak woman for putting up with my father cheating. She likes to kick up and say how only a real man can handle a black woman, and only weak black men go outside their race to find a woman, because they can't handle a strong, independent black woman. You know, that same BS line they teach all of them to say when they have an attitude. When my ma heard other black women talking like that, she used to get vexed. She would say, why a man should have to handle a woman. Why they would say that. The men realize how bad that making them look. They can't understand that people just want to have peace of mind at home. No man want to be a damn lion tamer at home. He's just a man, and you is just a woman, not some circus act. Why we must handle each other.
Marcus laughed, stirring his coffee slowly. Debra could see that despite the frustration he was dealing with, talking about his mother was lightening his mood.
What else did your mother say?
She prodded.
She said the reverse of Natalie's philosophy seemed more true. Only a weak man would settle for a woman that want to disrespect him and take his role. But a strong man, a real man, would accept any woman despite her race, her economic status, or even her looks. Whether society put him down, or his parents excommunicate him, if a man find a good woman and want her, he should go after her.
Kay, so why are you still with Natalie then? I mean, most men would have called it quits on that relationship years ago, but you keep going back for more.
He shook his head like a teacher readjusting a student.
Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, I vowed I wouldn't be like my father and cheat, because I know what that does to a family. But we're not married, so I think the main reason is that I love her. Don't ask me why. I guess I'm just like my ma, in that I feel a certain amount of loyalty towards her since we've been through a lot, and I invested so much into her. I mean, before this girl got her degree, she was a different person. After she got her fancy degree and started working, she changed, and nothing I did was good enough. She had a problem with everything, down to the way I squeezed the toothpaste.
So you're just like your mom then, staying for love?
Actually, the reason my ma stayed was more complicated.
Marcus came over to sit beside her. He had never told her this story before, but now it all came tumbling out.
My parents were happily married for 34 years. Then my ma got cancer. She was in so much pain, she didn't want to have sex as often. And my father had just retired and was going through a midlife crisis. So at the point in her life when she needed him most, he began cheating. He had been doing it for years without her knowing, but I knew, because he left his phone all over the place. Ma trusted him so much, she never checked his phone. But one day he got a call while he was in the shower and she answered.
He laughed bitterly.
She was fighting cancer for 9 years, but the year she found out was the year she died. On her hospital bed, I asked her why she stayed with him and she said, "Where again you want me go?" Basically, my father was paying her medical bills, taking care of our family, even the extended family like her sisters and stuff. He was generous, kind, patient. In her eyes, he was still a good man, and she had plenty good years with him, so why run from the bad parts? I used to always see my father as the king of the world, you know. Even when we was dirt poor, I felt rich because of him. We always had something to eat, and he worked his ass off to see us finish school. When he hurt my ma like that, I lost so much respect for him. And he only made things worse when he went to live with the Horner woman after my ma died. I wanted to cut ties with him, but then I remembered my ma and how she saw him. I remembered all he did for us, all the sacrifices he made, and I came to the conclusion that all men are imperfect and have weaknesses. His was just pussy, pardon the French. So in the end, I guess she even managed to convince me to forgive him. But maybe you're right. I should just call it quits with Natalie. I don't know what we're doing anymore.
Debra seemed to be mulling over everything she'd heard carefully.
I know I'm a pussy, right?
He sighed.
What? No, not at all. That's one of the manliest things I've ever heard you say. I used to think you were one of those submissive men who are into BDSM and liked your woman to humiliate you.
He spat out a shocked laugh.
What? You crazy? That's madness.
Oh, it's not so bad, you know, a little spanking and face-sitting.
He looked at her with his jaw practically unhinged.
Geez, you into some freaky stuff, girl. Anything else you want to tell me?
She shook her head vigorously.
Nope. No. Let's forget I said that, Kay. The last time I told you stuff like that, the entire staff was talking about it the rest of the day.
How many times I need to apologize for that?
He chuckled.
It slipped out. I thought being a virgin was a good thing.
It is, but it doesn't matter. I don't want to talk about that again. It's so strange, though. I'm not having sex because I'm single and made a choice not to before marriage. And you are sort of married, yet aren't having sex, but not by your choice. It's bizarre, isn't it?
No, it's sad. We're both sad.
Well, you are anyway.
Ow. Burn. But forget about that. You have to tell me, are you into face-sitting or not? Does that rev your engines to sit on a man's face?
God, why did I even mention that? You're not going to let it go, are you?
Would you?
She groaned, rolling her eyes in defeat.
Kay, I'm trusting you with this. The answer is yes. It kind of turns me on. But it's not that strange. I actually did some research, and they say that people that suppress their sexual desires usually develop strange sexual practices.
Oh my God,
He muttered.
What?
you're a freak. I have to tell everyone.
You'd better not.
She pretended to strangle him as they both laughed like kids. Finally, out of breath, he said,
Don't worry, your secret's safe with me. But I'll have to tell your future boo because you could kill a man with that big behind. He needs to know, Deb.
She couldn't help but chuckle, even though she was trying hard to keep a straight face at his little jab. Tapping him on the back of his head, she scolded.
Shut up. If you don't have something good to say, then don't say anything.
The floor manager pushed the door at that moment and eyed the two of them suspiciously.
Y'all fraternizing again?
He said in his Mississippi drawl.
No, sir.
Marcus straightened up.
All righty, well get moving, 'cause the bell's about to go.
He grabbed his water bottle and hustled out, shooting them another side glance on the way. Marcus started to stand when Debra suddenly grabbed his arm.
Oh, by the way, when are you going to buy the truck and finalize everything?
He bit his cheek as he gave it a quick thought.
I'm not sure as yet.
I think we should go tomorrow.
She said.
You're coming with me?
Well, I am a major investor, so I thought you'd want me there. Plus, it would be much easier with my car.
Oh yeah, that would be great. But it means you have to take a day off work. You really want to do that?
It's no big deal.
Well, we'll make a day of it. You know you're too helpful, right? People will take advantage of you.
He laughed.
I guess, but I don't actually mind. It's strange when people think that if they help others, they're somehow a sucker.
It's true. Some women feel that if you give them money or a gift that you're a fool, or they won some power over you. I don't get that, though. Because if I give you something, it's because I want to. It's not like I don't have any more for myself. It's you who need it, not me. But then you hear girls saying stuff like, he gave me money and I didn't even give him any. It's like they're saying they're all whores and they managed to rip off a customer. Thankfully, it's mainly ghetto girls.
Wow, did I strike a nerve? You went on a tangent there.
She poked.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but those men really are suckers, though.
The bell rang off, signaling for their shift to begin. They jumped and headed for the door, both shaken back to reality. They had to go opposite ways to get to their individual stations.
Anyway, so I'll meet you at your house tomorrow?
Debra called.
No, not my house.
Marcus yelled over his shoulder, power walking away.
It'll lead to too many questions. The basketball court on my street instead.
She shrugged, walking backward.
That's fine.
Marcus stopped mid-walk and turned around suddenly.
And Deb.
She paused.
Yeah?
Thanks again, not just for helping me out, but for being a real friend.
She gave a weak half smile.
No problem, friend.
Chapter 9. Beginnings. As planned, Debra picked him up at the basketball court, 10 houses down from his. As soon as he hopped into her fun-sized car, an ink blue Nissan Note, she handed him a check for almost $100,000. He slammed back into the seat in shock. They hadn't agreed on that amount. Slowly, he turned to look at her.
Deb, this is way too much. We don't need all this.
She shook her head like a disappointed parent.
Marcus, it's a business. We're going to run into unexpected bumps, and with both of us quitting our jobs for this, we're going to need something to live off of until we start making a profit. Trust me, that's still not enough, but it's all I have.
Deb, I don't know. These are your life savings, not so.
Kay, so? Are you going to get it from your wife, Marcus?
Well,
Remember, I'm not giving you the money. This is an investment in our business. I'll be expecting interest on it when we make it big. The money just appreciates in value every year, doing nothing in the bank anyway.
Marcus was floored by the amount of faith she had in him. For the rest of the drive, he was too stunned to speak, so he just sat there with a dumb smile on his face. When they arrived at the ranch house where the guy was selling the food truck, he rushed out to open the driver's door for her. The transaction went smoothly and wrapped up faster than either of them had expected. The guy, his front porch piled high with moving boxes, was friendly but clearly in a hurry to get the thing off his hands. After succeeding at their first business move, they went to a McDonald's to grab a bite. As he browsed the menu, Marcus began to wonder why Debra was so motivated to help him this much. He peered at her from the corner of his eyes. She was squinting, trying to read some fine print on the menu board. Did she actually like him as more than a friend? Other occasions where she went out of her way to help him came to mind as they ordered and paid. He was totally distracted, concerns beginning to rise to the surface. His thoughts were broken when Debra asked,
Marcus? What's the matter? You're just staring into space, and you've barely touched your burger. What's up?
He glanced down at his almost whole burger. How long ago had they collected their meal? It felt as if they had only ordered seconds ago.
Oh, nothing,
He mumbled.
I'm just thinking about the consequences of my actions, you know?
Seeing her puzzled expression, he elaborated.
I mean, what if Natalie shows up right now and catches me here with you? Like this?
Debra shrugged.
Probably less sex than you're already getting, which is none. She can't really hurt you anymore, Marcus. You're a free man.
If you have nothing nice to say, then don't say anything. Those aren't your words, Miss Lady?
Close. But it's good to see you're taking your training seriously. Just a little more, and your face will be ready to sit on.
She laughed. Marcus joined in, drawing everyone's attention with their joint scandalousness. With tears in his eyes, Marcus said,
But for real, that's the freakiest thing I ever heard a girl want to do. No wonder you're single. I don't know any man that would be into that.
Debra went still. The joy in her face drained, and she didn't reply. Immediately he felt guilty. If she did indeed like him, and he was leading her on, it wasn't fair to her. Perhaps she was holding out for him, waiting for him to break up with his girl so she could have a shot. The urge to find out the truth had become too strong. He had to know.
Deb,
He said, getting serious.
why are you really helping me? Do you have feelings for me?
Chapter 10. Feelings.
I knew this question would come eventually.
Debra was staring off to the side, looking kind of sick.
Don't worry.
She smiled.
I actually believe in what you want to do, and I also see it as my ticket out of this dead-end job we're in. I've been there from the beginning, and that sexist pig hasn't promoted me once. He doesn't even know my name, but once some hot ditz walks through the door, he's all up in her ass, trying to smell her panties and get her to work late to climb higher. Whatever. Forget him.
She let out a pent-up sigh before turning to look Marcus in the eye.
Look, I'm not saying I don't like you, because I do. It's just, I've been fat for a long time, so I understand how these relationships work. I'm your friend. The cool girl you can talk to about anything. Whatever. I get it. It's good enough for me.
Marcus stared at her for a bit, until he realized what she was saying.
God, Deb, why you never told me how you feel?
Don't worry about it, Marky. I've been single for years. I'm accustomed to it. No big deal. To tell the truth, I think any man I'm friends with, I'd end up having feelings for. So what do? Not have male friends? I mean, you know how I feel about female friends. They're all bullies and fakes. It's just something I have to deal with, so don't worry about me and finish your sandwich. Don't let things get awkward, Kay?
All right.
He muttered. They continued their meal in silence. Eventually, Debra spoke up.
Things are awkward, aren't they?
Yeah, it is.
He answered, looking at her sheepishly. They both laughed and resumed chatting as usual. She dropped him off where she had picked him up, and they parted ways. Marcus walked up the street and into the house with a smile plastered on his face. Then he heard the dreaded voice,
"Where the hell have you been? And why do you have that stupid grin on your face?"
Chapter 11. Fantasy. Marcus was caught off guard. Natalie wasn't supposed to be home this early. He quickly fished for an excuse.
I went out to celebrate with some friends. I got the food truck and my food badge finalized today, so I guess I start soon.
You're just wasting your time and money with that dumb idea, Marcus. Anyway, I'm hungry, so could you hurry up and get something going on the stove?
So why didn't you cook?
Come on, baby. You know I can't cook like you. Plus, work was so tiring today.
She whined.
You're a real piece of work, you know.
If you fix my favorite dish, I'll give you some tonight.
He sized her up and handed her a bag of McDonald's.
Don't worry, I brought some takeout.
Then he went upstairs to the bedroom to wait, and once she had finished eating, she followed suit, slipping under the covers with him. He was nose deep in a book on business management, a gift from Debra. Natalie took the book away and turned him onto his back. Disrobing, she lay bare her firm, fit body. Her ample breasts stood at attention as she slid down on top of his already throbbing member. Then, for half an hour, she rode him like a stallion till she was satisfied. Breathing heavily, she rolled off and fell asleep. Even though he had been satisfied sexually, Marcus felt a strange void. It was an emptiness that had been there for a while, but tonight it felt as if it had grown 3 sizes. He didn't know when, but at some point he drifted off and found himself strapped naked to the bed by his hands and feet. The bed beside him was empty. Fear crept up his body as he tried to put the pieces together.
Natalie,
He called. The light was on in the bathroom, but she didn't answer.
Nat?
He tried again. The shower turned on, and the sound of hundreds of tiny droplets hitting the tiles echoed through the room. Someone sang softly above the spray, but he could tell it wasn't Natalie. The song was too familiar, like a song his ma used to sing before tucking him in every night. He shuddered. That voice belonged to someone he recognized. Suddenly the water stopped. The door to the bath was slightly ajar, and he could see a shadow moving around slowly. Then the door creaked open, and a leg stepped through the crack. A milky white leg squeezed into a black lace stocking, the toes painted a juicy red.
Hope I didn't keep you waiting too long. I'm ready now.
A sultry voice purred. The woman slinked past the door. She wore a leather corset that matched her lace stockings and gripped a horse crop in one hand. Long black hair fell in loose tresses over her shoulders and between her breasts.
Debra,
Marcus choked.
You've been a very naughty boy, Marky. I'm going to have to give you a good spanking.
A bolt of electricity roared through Marcus's body and flowed into his loins. He sprang to life like never before. When she sauntered over to him and climbed onto the bed, he could feel his heart jumping with excitement. She hit him a few lashes across his tender nipples, drawing out a wince. Somehow this only made him more aroused.
Oh my, you really want a taste, don't you? Don't worry, you don't have to wait long. Mommy's going to give you what you want.
She got up and stood over his head. Suddenly she wasn't wearing a corset, but a black panty and matching bra. Before he could properly register the sudden change, she began to lower herself onto his face. His breath got heavy as he tried desperately to raise his head to meet her ample behind. His face was enveloped by her soft, warm cradle, and immediately he sucked in air and was hit with the most erotic aroma. The excitement proved to be too much, and he bolted upright, sweating through the sheets. A dream. Ripping the blankets off, he assessed his condition. He had never seen his member in such a rage. He almost couldn't believe he'd gotten so revved up. The frustration lingered, and he knew he needed more. One look at Natalie sleeping peacefully told him he had already gotten all he would get from her, for the next month at least. He limped to the bathroom and secretly satisfied his own carnal lust, continuing the lurid fantasy and taking it all the way with the Debra from his dream. When he was done, he rolled back into bed but couldn't get to sleep. He stared at Natalie's sleeping face, wondering what this all meant. One thing he could confirm was that he found Debra's body sexually appealing. Her fantasy had now become his. Guilt at touching himself to lewd thoughts about her began to gnaw at his conscience. She was his friend. Plus, he was with Natalie. He wondered if he should tell Debra about his dream since he had grown used to telling her everything. This time, though, he decided it might not be such a good idea. Chapter 12. Hustle. The official launch day of Marcus and Debra's food truck rolled around a week later. Both they and their cakes and pastries were ready to hit the road. Just before lunch, they pulled up at Forest Filtered Waters bottling plant, their former workplace, and opened up shop right outside. The majority of the workers didn't usually bring lunch and had to head off the compound to buy theirs, so a crowd quickly formed, coming up to the new food truck to see the menu.
Wait, is that Marcus and Debra? Holy crap, it is. Damn, son, you did it.
Hey, Taylor. Yeah, I did it.
Marcus grinned.
So, what are you having?
Let me get that strawberry cheesecake.
That'll be $4. Here you go.
Taylor took a bite and gave a thumbs up.
Wow. Damn, son, you're going places.
He was their first customer, and by the end of the day they had sold out every last cake, pie, and puff. Marcus was shocked. He hadn't expected their first day to be such a success. After packing up, he and Debra went over the day's experience and made plans for improvement before they parted ways. As he walked through the door, he practically sang his words,
Love, guess what?
He hesitated.
Wait, what's wrong with you?
Natalie was sitting on the couch with a stone-cold look on her face. She stared at him for another moment until she finally managed to squeeze out her answer.
What's wrong? What's wrong is that I have a big fool for a man running all over the place with his fat-ass sidekick, making me look like a fool. I have never been so embarrassed in my life. All the staff, even the office staff, saw you out there today looking like a beggar, asking your friends to take pity on you. Don't you have any shame? How can you roll over and grovel at people's feet for spare change?
Girl, what you talking about? They love what I'm selling.
He didn't really want to get into it with her and ruin his mood. The past week had already been chock full of her ranting and going off on him for quitting his job. He had endured it then because he had a goal and was gearing up to it. But now, he was tired of hearing her mouth run away with itself. He went to the kitchen to make himself a sandwich as she continued to prattle in the background.
Oh, please, don't delude yourself. Once they came back into the office, they were laughing at you. They only bought from you because they know you.
Marcus didn't respond. He shoveled the sandwich into his mouth and went upstairs to get ready for bed. Several months passed by, and Marcus and Debra were still hustling hard. They had by no means become rich. In fact, they were just barely making it. Despite that, Marcus was focused and kept going with the support he was getting from Debra. He would prepare the pastries and package the cakes early in the morning, sell at lunch, and take an ass-whooping at night from Natalie. From the moment he would come through the door to the moment he went to bed, all he heard was how much he was wasting money, how stupid he was, how much of a failure in the bedroom he was, and how he would not be getting any sex for as long as he was in business. But usually, he would be too tired to even care. His desire for sex with Natalie was diminishing bit by bit, and his fantasies about Debra were increasing at the same rate. Along with that came the guilt. It ate him up every day, but there was no way to stop it. He was spending more time with Debra at work and in the long car ride back to his house. And it was during these car rides with Debra to and from work that he often found himself watching her sizable thighs and bright smile. He started to notice more and more how clear and smooth her skin was, like creamy white curd. His heart was slipping into her hands, he could tell, but he still hadn't made a decision on those feelings. That is, until the incident. Chapter 13. Criticism. After another day of hustling, Debra gave Marcus his customary drop home. As he stepped out onto the pavement, two of his neighbors, a pair of young black women, noticed him coming out of the car. They eyed him conspicuously as Debra waved him goodbye. He started walking up the path, and from over the hedge that separated the houses, he heard them whispering. Then, loud enough for him to hear, one of them remarked,
"So many smart, strong, beautiful black women out here, and you go for a lazy, fat, white hussy. Is it 'cause you hate yourself, Brutha? You wish you was white, don't you? You don't got a mother or sisters? How can you dog them out like that? You one of those weak-ass black men who can't handle a strong African sister?"
The other girl quickly chimed in,
"No, girl. I know what he is. Just a no-good broke scrub using that desperate fatty for her money. You saw who was in the driver's seat, didn't you? This nigga ain't shit. Just another no-good black man mooching off desperate women."
Marcus was tall enough to catch their smug expressions over the top of the hedge just before they scuttled off inside, snickering. They left him in a state of dumbfounded disbelief. As he began to walk up the front steps, his shock turned to anger. He didn't even know them, so what right did they have to judge him for his choice of a woman? What were they hoping to accomplish by telling him those things? Did they think he would be so ashamed of himself that he would ask one of them to be his girl instead? And what the hell did his mother have to do with anything? But his anger wasn't only for them and their rude comments. It was an anger directed at society for making such stupid rules about race, directed at himself because he knew that even though Debra wasn't his girl, he wanted her to be, but was too scared of what people would think about him to do anything about it.
I'm pathetic.
The thought seemed to come to him from outside of his mind. It was as if he were looking on at himself from somewhere in the ether, like you might do in a dream or a fantasy, and reprimanding himself for his own foolishness. It had slowly begun to dawn on him just how shallow some men were. If Debra was slim, everyone would be accepting of their relationship, but because she was fat, they would ridicule him. As the humiliating incident replayed in his head for the fourth time, he began to realize the truth. What those two girls had said really didn't matter. He didn't know them. They might be black, but he would probably not see them again for the rest of his life. And even if he did happen to bump into them once in a while, he didn't want negative people like that around him anyway. It was actually no loss to him at all, what they thought. Unlike them, Debra had a positive effect on him. She uplifted and supported him constantly. She was someone he wanted as a permanent fixture in his life. At the end of the day, why should he allow the thinking of ignorant people to influence him? At that point, his mind was made up. He wanted Debra and did not care what anyone else thought about it. Who vex loss, as his people like to say. It was also at this moment that he realized he'd been lingering, unmoving, on the front steps for an uncomfortable period. He straightened up, glanced around, and hurried inside. As soon as the door clicked open, Natalie was upon him.
"Marcus? That you?"
She said, rounding the corner to the entrance hall.
"I can't take much more of this shit, you know. Ever since you started your little hobby, I've had to be the one cooking and cleaning around here, and I have to go to work too. What? You think you got a maid, nigga? I ain't no maid. I'm a working woman. I don't need all the shit when I come home."
Wearily, Marcus turned to look at her. She looked exactly like those girls from earlier. The same mannerisms, a hand on the hip, the finger waving back and forth, the neck that looked like it would break if she stuck it out any further. She even wore the same weave they wore, with the long streaks of lighter color intertwined throughout. For a second, he wondered when he had found this stuff attractive. When she turned to walk away, he saw her booty swaying from side to side, and he remembered why he loved her.
For real? That's it?
He thought. He wasn't even getting to touch her anymore, so what was the point? Why was he still with her? These types of thoughts came at him like a barrage, but he didn't say a word. As usual, he slapped together a quick sandwich and went to bed.
Geez, I'm such a shallow man,
He thought.
All us men so shallow. All we want is nice breast and nice ass, but that really's not all it have. What about her goals in life, her beliefs or values?
It didn't take long for him to realize that he didn't even know what Natalie's goals were, and he didn't care. As far as he was concerned, their relationship was over. Even if he didn't end up with Debra, he'd rather be alone than with this type of woman.
But how I getting out? Probably I should just tell her straight out.
Lying in bed now, he began to mumble to himself.
Natalie, we're over. Or maybe I should come up with a logical statement to show the benefits a breakup would have. Or maybe I shouldn't tell her.
He racked his brain until finally,
Yeah, okay, I won't. That's probably better.
there was a loud flush from the bathroom, and Natalie came out with her lip curled.
Yuck! Seriously, Marcus, you forgot to flush the toilet.
A silence passed between them as he had a moment of mental dissonance. Then he blurted,
I'm so sick of this. Natalie, we done. I want you out of my house by tomorrow. I don't care where it is you go. I don't care what you do. Just be out by tomorrow, you hear me?
Natalie stared at him. Her jaw could have touched the floor.
Are you serious?
She scoffed. Marcus tossed her a pillow and said,
Sleep out on the couch tonight, 'cause I really don't want to hear it.
Natalie didn't waste time starting to beg.
Wait, honey. I know I've been kind of hard to deal with lately, but it's just all the stress on work and stuff getting to me. I promise I'll change. Please give me another chance.
I already told you I don't want to hear it. You're making enough money to get your own place, so I want you gone.
Natalie ran from the room sobbing. With the room finally quiet, he snuggled into his sheets and thought,
That wasn't so bad.
He was asleep in the next minute. Splash! Marcus bolted out of bed in a panic, sputtering and coughing. Cold water ran off him like rain as he stared at Natalie in shock. She had dunked a bucket of ice-cold water on him and stood there now with a triumphant grin. Before he could manage a word, she slapped him across the face.
I just got off the phone with Mr. Graham, and I'm going to live with him from now on. And yes, I have been screwing our boss all these years. Every night I've worked late. I've really been working his big rod. He's a real man. I should have left your loser ass a long time ago. You have never been shit. You think you can live without me? Try, bitch!
She stormed out of the house, shouting over her shoulder that she would be back for her stuff. Marcus flopped onto the other side of the bed, where it was dry, and breathed a sigh of relief. Somehow, the blow to his ego didn't seem to matter that much. The house was silent, and all his tension had flooded away with Natalie's departure. He closed his eyes again and mumbled tiredly,
That's more like it.
Chapter 14. Confession. When Debra came to pick him up the next morning, he went down the path with a huge smile and a winner's spirit about him. He was practically glowing with energy.
Okay. So, what's up with you? You look happier.
Debra chuckled as they pulled off.
Guess.
She shrugged.
Well, I don't know. Are you getting more fiber?
What? No, what is it with you white girls and fiber? I'll just tell you. I broke up with Natalie last night.
Oh my, how are you coping?
Great. I finally realized you were a much better choice for me anyway.
She slammed the brakes and the car lurched to a stop.
Wait, what?
She turned on him with a mixed bag of emotions playing over her face.
Well, I thought we could try and take our relationship to the next level. I know you like me, so I thought, why not?
He said, a bit shaken. Debra pulled the car over to the curb and put it into park. Taking a deep breath, she looked him dead in the eyes.
What the hell is it with you men and your egos? You didn't even talk this over with me. Did you just assume I was desperate and needy? You thought I would jump at a chance to be with you? Is that it? You thought, well, she's fat, so she must be desperate and lonely, right? Well, I've got news for you, Marcus. I don't think you're good enough for me. Sorry, but we're just friends.
Debra pulled off again, switched on the radio, and didn't speak for the rest of the ride. The interaction left Marcus a bit confused. It had gone nothing like he'd imagined. He was so sure she'd jump up and down, crying tears of joy as she embraced him. Thinking it over in the awkward silence between them, he realized that he may have been a bit too optimistic. He weighed whether he should apologize or just brush it off like a man, but quickly snapped back to reality. Who was he kidding? He couldn't play that Mr. Cool card on Debra. This woman already knew the assortment of choice words that his ex had subjected him to. She knew about Natalie's proclivity to douse him in cold water when she was angry. She knew how emasculated he'd been. He would have to apologize, if only to avoid the awkward silence during work and when she drove him home later. But he couldn't bring himself to do it for almost the entire day, finding excuses to procrastinate his apology as they worked. After the lunch rush was over, they packed up shop and got into Debra's car. As he'd predicted, the awkward silence carried over and occupied the car space. In a feeble attempt to break it, he said,
You feel that breeze that just passed through here? Cold, right?
Debra glared at him, then turned back to her driving. That was it. He broke down.
Deb, I'm sorry. It was wrong to think you'd just run into my arms. I thought since I knew you liked me that I already had you and I could get you any time I wanted. But you're right. I'm not good enough for you.
Debra pulled over and turned to him.
Kay, let's talk. You think you're so smart, huh? Trying to reverse psychology me. You know I didn't mean what I said earlier. You're a great guy, Marcus. You just got me mad, and I went straight for your ego to get back at you. So I'm sorry too.
She sighed.
The truth is, I am desperate and lonely. I think about you all the time these days, and I do want you, but I guess I'm scared. I've never had a boyfriend, you know, and I'm probably vulnerable at this point in my life. I don't want to get hurt or lose my dignity, but I don't want to lose you either. You're the only real friend in my life, and I don't want to lose that. You get what I'm saying?
He paused to let it all sink in before finally nodding.
I get it. But I think, just like with our business venture, you have to take a little risk. Take a chance with me, Deb. You did it once before, right?
For a while she looked reluctant, and he thought she would reject him again.
God, you're so smooth. Kay, but if we're going to be together, we need to lay down some ground rules first.
Rules like what?
Shaking her forefinger like a mom, she said,
First of all, and this is the main one, no sex before marriage.
What? That's crazy.
Debra rolled her eyes playfully.
Really, Marcus? You're not getting any now, and you're living with the girl.
He pouted like a kicked dog. He opened his mouth to protest, to suggest something else, but she cut him off.
Is it really going to be that hard to just continue like this? At least until we're sure we can fully commit to each other. Or is it that you don't want to commit, and you just want to fling?
No, it's not that. I love you, but why marriage? It's so old-fashioned, and most fail anyway.
He said.
Oh, you love me? That's so sweet.
She teased, poking him in the side. They had a small laugh, and all the tension from earlier lifted entirely.
You know that I'm a Christian, and therefore I subscribe to Christian beliefs.
She said, getting sober.
I left my home and gave up on my family for my beliefs. If I sacrificed so much for this and then had sex outside of marriage, what would I really be? I'd be a failure. Besides, just because other people's marriages are failing, and some consider it old-fashioned, doesn't mean we shouldn't try. My faith is important to me, and I believe that this is the best choice. I may not have had any option but to stay a virgin in school, but I do now, and it's important to me, so please respect that.
Her voice cracked as she expressed herself, and her eyes watered. Marcus could see that she was deeply invested in her faith and allowed himself to think about what she had said more seriously. He knew he wanted her to be his and no one else's, so what better way to ensure that than with marriage? He wasn't necessarily opposed to the idea. The moment provided a prime opportunity to bring up one of his concerns.
If you want to wait, then we'll wait. But I have a rule too, he said.
She nodded for him to go on.
You have to lose some weight.
She sobered up almost instantly and threw him a confused look. With a scornful laugh, she said,
You think I haven't tried losing the weight? It's hard. You have no idea what it's like.
You're right. But I'm not setting a target weight for you. All I want is for you to start regular exercise and watch what you eat. No sodas, more veggies.
Their McDonald's date flashed through his mind, and he added,
Oh, and watch your portion sizes.
I thought you loved me for who I am. I thought you loved everything about me.
She whimpered.
I do, but we all have faults, and I think the real issue is if you're willing to work on your faults to make it work.
So you're saying my weight is a fault?
Yes, it will shorten your lifespan, and if you really care about me, you wouldn't want to take my joy away, would you? Honestly, a bit of size doesn't matter, but being healthy does, because it affects both of us.
God, you're smooth.
She laughed. Marcus was surprised. He could hardly believe he was successful. She was so much more easygoing than Natalie, and he could have a logical discussion with her and not have to worry about verbal and physical abuse. It was a huge relief.
Fine. I'll start up an exercise regimen from next week, okay? But you're coming with me.
She grinned.
Wait, what?
If you really want me to lose weight, then you have to support me. So you have to go to the gym too.
But I'm quite fit.
She only had to give him a look for him to change his tune.
But I'll do anything for my baby.
He sang. She laughed, hiding the blush that was forming on her cheeks. After that, they were back on the road, talking and laughing as usual.
So tell me what happened last night. I mean, what made you finally leave her?
Debra asked.
Well, girl, not sure. I guess it started off with those girls from yesterday.
What girls?
Some girls in my neighborhood saw you dropping me off, and they start telling me all kind of thing.
He shrugged,
Hold up. What kind of stuff?
waving his hand vaguely.
You know, the whole keep to your own people, backwards kind of thinking.
No, I don't know. Tell me what they said.
He went on to relate the entire experience, and when he was finished, Debra was furious, but strangely, also a bit aroused. She felt naughty, like she had somehow become the bad girl. When they pulled up to his house, the two girls he had talked about were sitting out front in their lawn. They were about to roll blunts. Shaking his head, Marcus opened the door to step out when Debra grabbed his arm and breathed.
Kiss me.
His eyes opened wide, but before he could respond, she already had her tongue in his mouth. The girls watched as she had her way with him, and he held her, really getting into the make-out session. Disgusted at the sight, they stood and went back inside. Once they were gone, Debra pulled away.
Ha, we got 'em good. They're probably so pissed.
She snickered.
Is that what you did that for, just to get them angry?
Marcus asked, still slightly stunned.
Yeah, why?
You can't do that to me, Deb. I'm a man that hasn't been having much sex lately. If you keep doing things like that, I'll have to break that rule of yours.
She laughed.
Sorry.
I got you a little excited, did I?
I thought you were a virgin. Where you learn to kiss like that?
He eyed her suspiciously and she shrugged.
I'm a natural, I guess. I may be a virgin, but I do have experience in other areas, like kissing and stuff, but not sex.
Okay, interesting.
Waving her goodbye as she pulled off, he felt a refreshed sensation come over him. He was starting from scratch. New job, new girl. Things were good. Getting inside the house, he took off his jacket and reached to hang it on the coat rack and paused. It wasn't there. Glancing around, he noticed the place was oddly quiet, as if every movement he made echoed off the walls. Going into the living room, he realized what had happened. Moving from room to room, he found each one empty. All his furniture, electronic appliances, even a few fixtures. Everything gone. All that remained was his mattress, only now it was soaked in a liquid that smelled disturbingly similar to urine. Thankfully, it was shoved into a corner of the room. He took off his clothes and tossed them into the closet with a long sigh. Natalie had said she would be back for her stuff. A lot of what she had taken, though, she hadn't paid for, since her shopping list mostly consisted of shoes, clothes, weave, and relaxer. Surprisingly, he didn't feel any loss. In fact, he was at peace. His new life had begun, and there was nothing left to hold him back. A weight had finally been lifted from his life. That night he slept on the floor, using his bundled clothes as a pillow, and had the most pleasant sleep in years. Chapter 15, Revival. The very next day, he was back on the grind with his woman. They had started to go around to different patisseries and bakeries, selling their treats. After a few weeks of this method, they decided one day to visit their old workplace after they'd made their rounds of the patisseries. As soon as they pulled up and their former workmates saw them, they made a mad dash to the truck. They were quickly bombarded with purchases and everyone trying to congratulate them on their business's continued success. From the top floor of the building, where the overseeing office was located, Mr. Graham looked outside when he heard all the commotion. Sitting in his chair, he could see Marcus's food truck pulling up. He tapped Natalie on the shoulder, and she glanced up at him from between his legs.
"Isn't that your ex, Marcus?"
He smiled.
"He's doing well for himself. I like to see my fellow brothers doing it big. Ooh. Ah, very nice, baby. Don't forget to clean me up now."
His phone rang off, and he picked up with a calm,
"Yes, hello? Graham here. Oh, honey, it's you. What is it?"
The voice on the other end was audible enough for even Natalie to hear.
Why do you sound so winded, Jay? You're with one of your whores, aren't you?
Honey, you know you're the only one for me.
Don't honey me, you disgusting man.
Baby, I got to go. Lots of work to do.
He said, slowly moving the phone away from his ear.
Yeah, whatever. Just remember to pick up Caleb, because I can't today.
All right, baby. I'll pick him up on the way from work. Don't worry. Love you. Bye-bye.
He hung up quickly and looked down at Natalie, who was just about done cleaning off his Johnson.
That woman will drive me crazy. Luckily, I have you, Natalie. I got you a little something. Open it.
He handed her a velvet box, and she opened it to find a white gold necklace shimmering inside. As if she were a starved animal, she snatched it up and put it on immediately. Then she moved in for a kiss, but Graham promptly put a hand up to stop her.
Come on, baby.
He said,
Don't you want to clean up a little first?
Oh, yeah?
She backed off, wiping her mouth in embarrassment.
Well, thanks.
It was nothing, baby. And how do you like the apartment I got you?
It's great. It's only missing one thing.
She hinted.
Plus, it's half the size of my old place.
She thought. Graham chuckled.
That's sweet, but you really need to see about finding your own place soon. I can't keep you there forever.
Yeah, I'm looking.
She said.
Good. I'll give you a couple of months. Now, could you call Kara in on your way out?
As she left, she waved Kara over, but lingered behind the door, wondering where she was going to find a decent place on such short notice. Through the door, she could hear bits of Graham and Kara's conversation.
You know you're the prettiest thing in this office?
Natalie whipped around and pressed her ear to the door. Mr. Graham thought Kara was prettier. That had to be a bad joke.
I thought Natalie was your favorite employee.
She heard Kara laugh playfully.
Natalie, of course not. How could a woman in her late 20s ever be sweeter than you, little Kara? You're leagues apart. She's a smart girl, but she's wasted too many years of her life getting that useless degree. Anyway, forget about her. What would you say to a promotion?
Natalie backed away, shocked and angry. It was beginning to dawn on her what most of the attractive girls here had already figured out, that Graham was just using them. He had a wife at home and kids. Even his wife knew he used the girls in his office as playthings, only she turned a blind eye to it. Feeling sick to her stomach, Natalie wandered downstairs and found herself out in the courtyard. From there, she could see Marcus's food truck still outside the gate. He was already closing up. She went over and asked him if they could speak in private before he left. But he blinked at her and folded his arms across his chest.
Whatever you have to tell me, you could tell me right here.
So it's like that? Well, I see you moved on fast,
she replied bitterly. He rolled his eyes.
You're done?
No, I'm sorry. I see your business is picking up.
She smiled weakly, gesturing to the truck. For a moment she looked down at her shoes, and when she looked back at him, her expression was pained.
Marcus, I'm sorry, okay? I was wrong. I got my degree and started making more money than you, and I don't know, it just made me want more than you were providing. It was frustrating to not be satisfied, but I realized that these material things don't mean shit without love.
She took another deep breath and blurted,
Marcus, I'm asking you to let me come home.
No.
She looked up at him, completely floored.
It's too late, girl. I've grown too, and I realize I never really liked you. I was just with you out of a false sense of loyalty. To you, to our people, to my ma. I was scared of letting other people down. But honestly, I always had a preference for something different. I was afraid, and that was weak of me, but I'm not that weak man who ain't shit anymore. Now I do what I want despite people's negative opinions. So I'm sorry, but you'll find someone eventually. Who knows? The boss might end up loving you more than his money one day. Then he might actually leave his wife and kids for you. By the way, you still have some of his load on the corner of your mouth. Later.
With that, he went around front to Debra's car, hopped in, and they drove off, leaving Natalie to wipe off her shame. Chapter 16. Bakery. About 2 years had passed, and both Marcus's business and relationship were still going strong. He had a reliable core group of customers, and he and Debra were almost inseparable. She even managed to shave off several pounds. She still wasn't slim, but she had healthy, thick curves, and Marcus thought she was the sexiest woman alive. He loved her figure with her abundance of meaty goodness that he could sink his teeth into, just the way he liked it. By that time, they'd managed to save enough money to buy a 2-story building on a busy Main Street corner. Debra stood outside, paying the movers, while Marcus heaved the last piece of furniture inside on the upper floor. He planned to move in on top and open their bakery below. Debra came upstairs after the moving truck had driven off and sat beside him on the couch. Throwing an arm over his shoulders, she asked,
So what's the next step, Captain? You ready to open that bakery?
Sure am. First mate Debra.
He laughed. The lower floor, which was to be the bakery, took a month to fully furnish and paint. When it was complete, Debra arranged an opening party and sent out invitations to their loyal customers as well as their friends and family. Marcus baked the store's first cake, a behemoth of a cake that stood almost 8 feet tall. It was draped under a veil so that all the attendees would be in for a huge surprise, and was the main centerpiece despite its mystery. Surrounding it was a spread of cookies and cupcakes. They welcomed their guests at 5 in the evening with the cutting of a huge bow they had tied to the doors. When the party was underway, Marcus motioned to Debra to come over.
Is it time already?
She asked.
Yeah, you want to do the honors?
Her hand went to her mouth in an excited gasp.
Really? Me? But isn't this your dream?
Nodding, he said,
But you were the one to support me from the start. So get up there.
Hesitantly, she went to stand next to the gargantuan dessert and waited as he gathered everyone's attention. The murmurs from the crowd told them just how curious everyone had been about the secret behind the veil this whole time. Climbing up the ladder, Debra could feel her heart pounding out of control in her chest. She imagined herself messing up, making a fool of herself, and ruining Marcus's opening ceremony. She got to the top and reached over to untie the knot, keeping the veil in place. Before she could conjure another image of her falling into the cake, the cloth dropped, and there were suddenly life-sized replicas of her and Marcus standing at the center of the room. They were made with expert precision, almost like wax dolls of themselves. Marcus's figure was on bended knee, presenting an empty box to the replica of her. She turned around, gasping and smiling as it hit her. Marcus stood at the bottom of the ladder with the ring gripped between forefinger and thumb.
Deb, I think I've procrastinated long enough, and I want you to move in before the end of the year. So here goes. I always said I wouldn't bend my knee when I proposed to a woman, so I'm hoping you wouldn't need me to since he already did it for me.
He pointed to his replica.
What do you say, Miss Deborah Bell? Will you marry me?
Tears welled in her eyes, and she hurried down the ladder to meet him.
I've always told myself I wouldn't cry when I got proposed to, but it seems I just broke that rule.
She laughed shakily.
You're not going to let me be the only one to look like a fool, are you?
Marcus laughed too, got down on one knee, and asked the question again. Debra didn't even let him finish before she was down on the ground, hugging and kissing him, sobbing loudly.
Yes, yes, yes!